Okay, good morning, 8th grade. Today I have to participate in a webinar, so I'll be in my room, and you'll be working with some literature elements with Miss Riley today. So we have two objectives. One is to re-examine our vocabulary from Friday, and the next is to introduce the second style of writing we're going to take a look at, and that is the art of persuasive writing. So, vocabulary from Friday, open up your interactive notebooks. To the Friday selection, you broke into two groups, as I understand it, and developed two lists of 10 selected vocabulary that you had developed. Today's objective is that you'll need to select 5 words from each of those two groups, working together as a class, so that you'll develop one list of 10 words. This group of 10 words will form the basis of our study and vocabulary for chapters 1 to 6. So those 10 words that you select, you're going to identify those 10 words, and we will repost them as index cards in your interactive notebook. Because we're working 5 from each group will already have 5 affixed in their notebooks. So press pause right now. As together as a whole class, select 5 words from each of the two groups that you developed on Friday so that you come up with one list of 10 words. Okay, so now our second objective for today is to take a look at a writing element. And we're moving into the second form of writing called persuasive writing. And it has a very specific purpose, objective, and need, and it's very different from the expository element we looked at with our Saints project. So let's take a look at what some of the concepts in persuasive writing include. So persuasive writing is writing with a purpose, like all writing, but in persuasive writing, it's the art of convincing others that your opinion or position is the only one to have. So persuasive writing is the concept of convincing others through writing. Let's take a look at how we're going to apply that in the Red Badge of Courage. So in chapters 1 through 7 of the Red Badge of Courage, we've argued and determined a whole host of positions for why Henry Fleming decided to enlist in the Army. And if we were to write a persuasive piece, this would be a very baseline writing prompt that we could use, and we could either fill in the blank with Henry Fleming's decision to enlist in the Union Army was a selfless act or a selfish act. You'll note that these two are very polar opposites because we want to make certain that we are writing for a piece of persuasion. The purpose of it is to convince others of the position that you have. If we look at these two positions, there is no gray area. It's completely a black and white decision. If I were to choose either one of these, I would completely encapsulate and cover over the opposite ability. So when we're writing a piece of persuasive writing, we are really determining and making a clear statement for one case over another. There's some certain ways that we can do it. So first thing I want you to do is to get out your flippable. It's a 4-tabbed flippable, and it's titled on the side Oreo. So the first thing I want you to do is to glue this down. Here's your fold line. You're going to glue underneath of the acronym Oreo, and each one of these tabs will be free so that we can use those in a moment. So press pause and glue in this flippable on the left-hand side, the next left-hand facing page that you have. Okay, so if we use this flippable as our pre-writing exercise, we know that our argument is we need to determine whether Henry Fleming's decision to join the Army was selfish or selfless. So those are the two things that I have to choose from. The first thing I need to do is to determine which one of those I'm going to argue. I'm going to write my persuasive piece on. So in the back of this flippable, you're going to write either a selfless or a selfish act. That's going to be something that you determine. Once you've determined that, I want you to quickly underscore 3 reasons that you feel this is the stronger, the only position to have, whether you feel it's a selfish act or a selfless act. You need to write those 3 reasons on the back of this flippable. On the back of the flippable with examples, you're going to cite 3 pieces, chapters 1 to 7, 3 examples from the text that underscore your position. Any type of persuasive writing needs to be supported very firmly by evidence. So the examples that you select need to make certain that they drive home the reason that your opinion or your position is the only one to have. And on the bottom, one of the more important things about writing a persuasive piece is that you restate frequently your opinion. Remember, your objective is to convince your reader. The only way that you can convince your reader is to make certain that they are constantly reminded of the position that you have. So on the back of this flippable, rewrite your opinion. This is going to serve as our pre-writing organization chart. Next, you'll see the next flippable, and this is going to go on the right-hand side of your interactive notebook. And this is going to flesh out our pre-writing exercise. This uses the acronym DEFEND. And in this DEFEND acronym, it helps us to underscore and realize some of the elements that we have to have in place when we're writing a persuasive piece. First, your position has to be exact and clear. You can't sort of have a little bit of one position and a little bit of another position. You must decide your exact position. Remember, your objective is to persuade others that your opinion is the only one to have. Not one of many, not one of a few, but the only opinion and position to have. Restate your exact position on the back of this flippable. Then examine your reasons. Let's say, for example, you determined that your exact position was that it was a selfless act, that Henry Fleming's decision to join the Union Army was selfless. He was doing it for a greater good. So I need to examine my reasons. I know that selfless means I'm doing this for a greater good, and perhaps one of those greater good elements could be that he determined to join the army out of loyalty and duty to his country. So that's certainly something that's outside of himself, making it a selfless act. Perhaps it was another to bring honor to his family. That is something outside of himself. It was a selfless act. And maybe it was something that had to do with defending the rights of others. Again, another selfless act. But all 3 of these support your exact position that they were selfless acts. So when you examine your reasons, you want to define those reasons that underscore your exact position. Quickly, in 3 bullet points on the back of this flippable, write your 3 reasons for your exact position. The next thing that you want to do is to take and form your points that explain your reasons. These are defended elements from your text. So, if you say that he was defending his country out of a sense of duty, you want to form your points because this is during the Civil War. There was no gray area. It was definitely a north or south. There was an all in or all out capacity. You want to take each one of your reasons and identify and explain what that reason for your position is. You need to give your reader greater depth to understand your position. Then you move to expose your position. Your exposing your position comes in line with noting your argument and identifying your support. These 2 elements work in conjunction. If I say, I examine my reason, that it was a call to duty, a duty to serve your country, you're going to form my points and explain that reason a little heavier to say, give context to the time. This was during the Civil War. This was a time when the country was divided and men had to determine which side they were on. Then you're going to go into your text and note specific support from your text that support that reason that you explained. Exposing your position and noting your argument and support are where you go into your text and define those elements that can be supported through the text for your reasons and your explanation. And finally, remember, the most important thing to do about a piece of persuasive writing is to make sure that you are constantly reminding your audience what your exact position is. Once you have detailed your exact position over and over again, remember, it starts at decide your exact position and it ends at drive home your position. When you're trying to persuade someone, you're going to recall that element of persuasion over and over again. Use these two flippables to decide your position and to identify your reasons, explain them, cite information from site-specific examples from the text, and re-identify your position. Tonight for homework, I want you to use this worksheet. This worksheet is to help you enumerate and list. This works as our web to begin to develop our persuasive writing piece. Here you're going to cite your 3 reasons that you have shown. You're going to enumerate the page number where you can find examples to support your reasons. And this particular worksheet shows a separate element that's called the counter argument. Now, in a persuasive piece of writing, remember, you're trying to support your opinion. And one of the ways to do that really drives home your opinion is what's called supporting the counter argument or defending the counter argument. In that, I could say that one of my reasons for determining that Henry Fleming's decision to join the Union Army was a selfless act because it was he was heeding to a greater call to serve his country. You could argue that he was just simply following the crowd and therefore being relatively selfish. But the weakness in that argument is, can you see how when you enumerate and define your counter-argument, at that point you're taking the position that goes against your persuasive argument, and translating it into something that is positive. You want to debunk your counter-argument in a persuasive piece of writing. So tonight for homework, I want you to fill this in, and we will work on this piece tomorrow. Tomorrow is November the 11th. It is Veterans Day, and we're going to take a look at a host of those elements that have called soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines to serve our country throughout many wars. And we're going to identify our opinion and clarify that, especially tomorrow on a day that is underscored by our selective reading in the Red Badge of Courage.